Hi, everyone. This is Thomas Ordahl. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Landor. Thank you for joining us. This is the halfway mark of our extraordinary webinar, which began in Sydney at 1 in the morning, East Coast time, US, and I think this is the halfway mark, so we're 12 hours in, 12 hours to go. We were in the UK, we were in Asia, we've been moving around the world, and had some great speakers and have great speakers coming before us. The intention of my talk is to speak about purpose and brand resilience. And I think what's interesting about this time, and of course we're all well aware that it's been very challenging. We're dealing with unexpected realities on every front. Every business is facing this. And nowhere is this more true for brand. I mean, this is a time for thinking about the short term, the long term, how do we respond to the challenges of today, tomorrow, how do we build for the future? What opportunities do we have ahead of us? All of this is in play. All of this is in consideration. And it's frankly, I think, overwhelming for many of us. We're thinking about, what's the right decision for a market? What's the right way to engage our customers? And all of this is, I think, heady times. And what we're finding is that purpose is really at the center of our guidance. I think this is something that Nick Cooper mentioned before. We're seeing consumers are more responsive to purpose than ever before. They're looking for that in the brands they engage with. But at the same time, we're also finding purpose as an effective tool for decision making for brands. How do they respond to the short term, and how do they build for the long term? And I think what's interesting is the purpose could be viewed as a kind of metaphysical exercise or something kind of abstract. But in this time, it's actually something that's giving us very useful guidance. There's a few ways this is happening. The first thing is purpose shows us what we do best. At the end of the day, when we're dealing with unexpected circumstances, the question is, how do we act in the short term? And I think purpose is a way of thinking about how do we create value today, but also going forward. And so an example we saw recently is, and maybe you've heard this before, is Hilton and Amex coming together to donate rooms for healthcare workers and helping them use the capacity they have to address an immediate term need. Another example that I think is quite interesting is how OpenTable is now helping retail stores and grocery stores allocate time for scheduling visits, because of course we have to do social distancing and manage the amount of people coming into stores. And how do you do that? Is OpenTable's repositioning itself and reconverting its platform to help these stores manage crowd control. So both of these are great examples of how businesses are repositioning and repivoting, but still staying true to who they are, staying true to the value they create in a entirely new, different context. Another trend we're seeing is what we're calling cultivate your community. And something that I'm really interested in, we've been interested at Landor for quite a while, is brands are increasingly becoming a way to engage not just consumers and not just marketplaces, but actually cultivate senses of belonging and relationships and interests. And ultimately, this is, I think, one of the most powerful ways that brands can grow in the future is by not just seeing themselves as a marketplace, but seeing themselves as a community. A brand we work with and partner with and admire greatly is Alvin Ailey. And what's interesting is Alvin Ailey has been using, they're inherently a physical brand, right? It's a dance studio, it's a dance theater, and that's, by definition, a very physical experience. But they've built a platform which is helping them to reach their audiences, reach these communities, reach their constituencies virtually. But people can see performances, people can take dance lessons, people can do exercises, people can get education. So it's really interesting to see how they're taking the essential nature of their business and the purpose of their business, but adapting it to the context of today and the context of the technology available. Another one that I found personally interesting is I had the good fortune to be in the Faroe Islands about, I guess it was last September. Seems like a very long time ago. And, they're if you don't know it, it's an archipelago of islands off of Norway, between Norway and Iceland. So a bit remote and a bit unknown to many. And, in these times, it's hard for them to engage the audiences and the tourists they want to reach. They have this now virtual tours where Faroese locals are going out and with a camera, and you can remotely engage them to go around and sort of direct them so they can see the islands, and you can tour it in effect on a remote basis. So again, interesting way to use technology and to tap into the audiences that are important to you in these, challenging circumstances. I think one of the other actions that we can all take that can be guided again by purpose is being prepared to change. And this is really, I think, the thing that we're all wrestling with, right? We want to understand, how do we use our brand and stand for, remain true to what we stand for, and yet at the same time adapt that posture and adapt those behaviors to a new reality. And this is really going to be, I think, the core consideration for brands over the next 6 months to 2 years, is how do they reinvent themselves? How do they imagine their business in the context of new and changing environments? And this is to me ultimately about balancing the paradox of being true to who you are and yet responsive to changing conditions and marketplaces. An example I saw recently was, there's a jewelry company in China that's called Ideal, and obviously their retail business shut down and they had to adapt, and they've developed a kind of live streamed in-store retail where you can engage with them, you can look at product, people try them on, you can see it. So it's a way for them to really engage these audiences and continue their business even though they can't do in-store retail. What I wonder is, will that continue forever? And I suspect it will. I suspect these will all be parts of how these businesses operate into the future. These are going to be part of I know Tim said he hates the phrase, but the phrase new normal, and I do see a new normal happening as we evolve, and it'll be parts of the old world we take with us and parts of the new world we take with us. Another interesting example I saw recently was the Finnish Hockey League, the professional Finnish Hockey League, is doing their playoffs using esports. So they're combining esports with, in a sense, extending the physical experience or blending the esports experience with the physical experience. And, we're probably all well aware esports is growing immensely in popularity, and you wonder, will this also result in more of a kind of a linking of esports and physical sports in the new world we're living in? Again, I think it's a really interesting example of how businesses are changing, and where some of these new behaviors will be playing out into an evolved marketplace. The last one is what we're calling practice the possible. There's lots of examples. I think we're seeing this all around the world across all different categories of business. One I saw recently was a hotel chain called Zoku, which is a hotel, and they've converted in the Netherlands, and they've converted their hotels to day workspaces. And probably any of us or most of us who are working from home, wouldn't mind getting out of the house for a day and having a place to go work. So it's an interesting way that they've used the space they have to adapt their business and deliver value in an unexpected way. And again, it's the purpose, the core of their business is hospitality, creating space, but they're reapplying it in this new context. I saw an example recently, I think there's a few of these where, bakeries that can't sell direct anymore, that people can't go buy baked goods as much. There's there's a boom in sort of home baking right now. They're making baking kits that they can send to people. So again, the core of who you are, but applied in a new way. Cruise American is an RV company that's repurposing RVs now to be portable labs, portable workspaces, helping governmental organizations respond. So again, they're looking at how can they take their core business and change it and apply it in a new way. And I think this all comes down to purpose. And this is what I think is one of the big learnings for me and for us coming out of this, as Tim and Nick both mentioned. Purpose can feel like a ethereal, abstract consideration. And you might have been tempted, and even I was sort of tempted in the beginning, thinking, well, maybe this is a bit too far out, these things. We should, to focus on the practical, the short term. And yet I started thinking about this notion of a North Star, which is often a metaphor used to describe what a purpose is. And I thought about the other metaphor I'm hearing a lot is uncharted waters. We hear a lot of people say we're in uncharted waters, and we are in uncharted waters. And if you marry those two, I think that's where the clarity is coming for me, is that the North Star is that which you rely on when you're, in uncharted waters. We don't know where we're headed. We're facing unexpected questions, unexpected realities, and that's the value of purpose. And I think it's interesting to see how many consumers, to Nick's point, are questioning and wanting to see, what a company's purpose is and how that's showing up in their business. At the same time, we're also seeing how purpose is a guiding framework and a tool that people can use to make decisions in these unexpected situations. Thank you for your time. It was great to be a part of this event. I'm only the halfway mark, so there's lots of good speakers coming up. We have Mary Zala coming up next to talk about the role of consumer brands in wellness, which will be really interesting, and that's in the top of the hour. But again, thank you, and hope everyone stays well, and we look forward to the rest of the event. So long.